I got you back. I feel like I need to have you on at least once a year, and we're on that path right now. Which and it's always so amazing because um it's always at the start of the year too, which is awesome. I don't know if you
I didn't
realize that.
realize that, but that is our
Mhm.
pattern. That is
That's our
so
pattern.
true.
Well, and it's so I mean, there's so many wonderful things about you and your knowledge and what you teach, but one of the things I wanted to get right into with you is, so we're approaching the end of January. I'm not sure exactly what week this episode will come out, but it'll be sometime in February. We know that people, the large majority, including myself, at the top of the year, we have all these goals and we have, things that we want to attack. And a lot of people, will create this whole kind of lifestyle makeover
Mhm.
or just like go really big, really hard, really fast. And then by the end of February, I think it is statistically, or March, burnout happens and that's a wrap. Like the goal isn't reached and, it's kind of back to where they were. The key word there that I want to start with is burnout.
Mm.
Because while I do love big goals, lofty goals, like going for it, I, I'm a huge fan in inches make the mile, baby steps. I believe that before we can even like be on this path of achieving a goal, we have to have the behaviors that shape the habits that create the process for us to be on the path of achieving. But I know that you are an expert in a lot of things. You've had experiences around burnout in your own life, and one of the greatest things that I know that you support your clients and your community with is how to yes, think big, create big, go for the things, but to have joy in the process, to keep it healthy, to make it holistic, and so that you not only feel good in the process, but that you don't burn out.
Yeah, such a beautiful question. So many pieces and parts of that. I love that you just went straight in,
Right in it, girl.
right in. Yeah. So when I work with my clients, I work to design the dream, whether it's for your life or your work or your business, in a way that is really in integrity and alignment with who we are. So, of course, we're going to look at your mastery and where you're most brilliant, and we're going to build your work around that. But we're also going to look at what you need. And that's a big one. Like, what do you need in terms of money? What do you need in terms of time off? What do you need in terms of, work life balance? What do you need to bring this vision to life? Also, what brings you joy? Because joy is a form of nourishment. It is a feel good fuel that lights us up and gets us to the finish line even faster. Um, and then also what we want to impact, so that when we're working from that space, one, it has meaning, two, it's aligned with our gifts. And when we work in a space that's aligned with our gifts, we use much less energy and mind share because it's so innate and intuitive for us. So when we're working outside of our gifts, we tend to we don't have the energy for it because we're trying to push and force for things that don't come as intuitively or innately for us.
Yeah.
So that's super important in terms of a starting place. And, and designing our work in a way that we can avoid burnout is really designing it in a way that's aligned with who you are authentically.
What would you say, because all of that is so good, what would you say to the individual that's like, well, I don't really know what, my passions are, and I don't really know even who I am. I mean, I know I've come across that in my coaching and I know that you have too. How do you support an individual who is going through the motions of that?
Yeah. So it's interesting. A lot of people will come to me and they'll be like, listen, I'm good at a lot of things. I am great at nothing. And I'm like, bullshit. Because what I'm great at is actually seeing people's greatness. So I can see it. I can see it in you, and I can see it in my partner, and I can see it in my clients. That's my gift, right? And everybody has a form of mastery, has a form of brilliance. But we grow up in family systems, cultures, and subcultures that tend to value certain things. So oftentimes we learn to value things that are distinct from us or outside of us. So we might think that our particular skill set or what's great about us actually isn't great, but that's our secret sauce. And so it's about reframing, rewiring our beliefs to understand our innate genius and greatness to get on the court with it. But everybody has it. It just looks different for all of us.
Would you say that, because I so agree with that? I know in my life that a lot of what has helped me to discover discover, yes, really align with my passions is having a deep sense of self-awareness. It's like if you're not able to really reflect and look at who you are and how you are, then how are you going to be able to tease apart these things that light you up?
Yes, that is literally the $1,000,000 $1,000,000,000 question. Like,
Yeah.
what is self? And so many
Mhm,
people don't know, like, who is self? What is self, right? So
mhm.
many of us, like, we're imprinted from an early age, right? From the ages of 2 to 22, depending on who you talk to, we pick up the behaviors and the mindsets and beliefs of the people that we're raised by or surrounded by.
Yeah.
And so for a lot of people, that becomes our outward expression, and we think that's who we are. But for most of it, it's not. And when we sit down to peel back the layers and we ask ourselves what we truly believe about life, and you are the master of this, then we understand who self really is and how we want self to move through life.
Well, yeah, I think that a probably important thing to add to that awesome piece that you just shared is that you are forever evolving. Like, I love
Yeah.
this statement that came out of me in writing one day, but the statement is, I am I am forever becoming. I'm always in a state of beginning. So even when like, for example, I start Black Belt Beauty 5 years ago, starting meaning I put it up on the website, I have an Instagram. I had this, like, okay, it might be something like a refinery 2009, but I didn't have like this whole big, like, now we know, and you have been a huge part in the whole development of my business, period, my thought leadership, as my coach. Um, you it morphed, but it's like I needed this jumping off place, and I did it without any pressure of, oh, this needs to be the thing. It's like I just knew that I have a lifestyle that feels good and that helps me perform good and actually inspires people. And in that, in the kind of tool kit box that I have in this lifestyle, so think mindset, think nutrition, fitness, beauty, what all things, I've been able to support individuals to up level themselves in their life, right? So, I start this Black Belt Beauty just from this place of, I know that I love this, and I know that there's like, I actually can affect people positively in this way, but I didn't have this is the thing. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I feel like people put this, and I'm so curious to your experience and what you think about this, but that there's a huge pressure on this concept around my passion, my purpose. And that can be so overwhelming that it actually holds an individual back from actually just starting and going for it. Right? What do you
Yes.
think?
So beautiful. So I think two things. I think I always love leapfrogging. So like you said, I always believe that we are always becoming. And so who I am today is different to who I will be tomorrow and the day after. And how I will make decisions tomorrow will be different to how I make decisions today, because I'll have different information.
Yes.
And so I have always loved kind of lily pad leapfrogging through life of, let me get to A. And then when I'm at A, I know what B is. And that's a really powerful thing. I also believe that radical change is possible too. So sometimes we can go from 0 to 100, even when we feel ready for it. Mm-hmm. One of my friends is a fellow coach. Her name is Megan Hellerer, and she talks about directional living. So instead of like, I have this one big juicy North Star and I'm going there, she talks about the leapfrog, lily pad process, right?
That's a lot.
It is. Yeah. Of standing in A, and then when you're in A, you know what B looks like, and just moving incrementally, because we have different information every step of the way. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a really powerful way to move through life, because it can be really overwhelming to be like, oh my God, the dream is here. How do I get there? How do I take step one? So yeah. I love this idea of directional living or leapfrogging.
I love that. I believe in that. I mean, that's a beautiful way to frame it. And I just learned it from you, but I feel like that is in alignment to how I've been doing it. I've always felt like, I'll do my best today with what I know, who I know, and what I have. I'll do my very best. Tomorrow, there's a very great chance that I'll be able to do better, because maybe I have more, I learned something more, I know somebody new, or something will happen, because I'm always driving myself to do my best. But yes, every day your best is going to look different. And a lot of that has to do with just where you are currently in that moment of your life.
Yeah.
That's a really powerful offering that you just gave everyone. You're so pretty. My girl. Oh my God. Over here, I did sprints for breakfast. Anyways, so I want to ask you, because again, you're a holistic leadership business coach. You have so many valuable teachings, wisdoms, offerings. I mean, again, I know firsthand, having been coached by you. Right now, what would you say is really driving you in your business?
I am really excited about people stepping into radical change. Like, I'm just having such a moment with it of radical feeling possible, of, things that we've been scared of doing, things that seem far off, making them happen fast. Why not? Right? Why can't we have the big juicy thing tomorrow? Why do we need, like, people will come to me and they'll be like, don't you have a longer program? Because right now I'm offering 2-month programs. And like, don't you have a longer program? I'm like, sure. But like, why do you want to do in 6 months what we could do in 2? Like, I'm having this moment where I feel like we can dig deep, go fast, and make radical change happen. And I'm really into that right now.
No, I love all of that so much. One thing that comes to mind that I'd like to ask you is what's a supportive tool that helps you to be able to kind of shorten the time span to make exponential progress. So the thought that comes to my mind is quality, but I'd love to know, like, what are some of your methodologies for this? Not to steal from your coaching though, because I want people to go to, yeah.
So cute. I love you.
Don't give all your secrets away.
Oh, you're so great. So I think what is so important in making radical change possible is priming. So almost getting ourselves ready for the process. And what I find oftentimes, what gets in the way of radical change, I think is really 2 things: overwhelm and fear. And when I think about overwhelm, I break it into 3 pieces, right? So overwhelm, I think, is a byproduct of us tolerating things that we need not be tolerating in our lives, of not being supported enough in our lives, and not having the appropriate structures in place that allow us to thrive. So when we look at those 3 things, we're throwing out everything that we shouldn't be tolerating. And sometimes we have to make like some big, deep cuts, but it makes so much more possible and available. Mm-hmm. And then getting really honest about where we're not being supported and where we need to call in support. And then the structures and like processes and things like that to allow us to really show up fully. And once we've taken care of that, it's like all those things that were weighing us down have suddenly freed us up, and we have tremendous energy, mind share to now focus on this particular challenge at hand. And it is just so powerful what's available when we move out those things that have been holding us back.
That's so good. And I know that I've experienced that with you. And like one of the things that comes to mind is just how I rearranged and I pushed Queendom up. I reprioritized, the launch of Queendom in front of other things. And you've said that to me so many times when you were coaching me, but it's like, I forget how you framed it. It was so good, but essentially you would kind of call me out. Like, is this kind of busy work getting in the way? Right. You have a great way of putting it, but you would call me out and not, really always an invitation for me to investigate, like, what's really going on here? Is this stuff really important, or is it actually just standing in the way of what's really important to you? And if that's the case, like, why is that? And I think it goes into something I want to pull on with you, which is this whole concept of being afraid, right? I'd love to know your thoughts and really how you support your clients around breaking past fear. Like, how do you invite them to I don't want to, that's almost a giveaway to the answer. Let me say, like, what are some of the ways that you support your clients to push or to move past the fears that are standing in their way of expressing themselves at the fullest potential, for going for the things that they really want to be going for in their lives?
Yeah, I love to not be afraid of fear. So to make friends with fear. So a lot of us are like, oh my gosh, this sensation of fear means stop, means paralysis, means danger, whatever it means. But it's simply information. So if when we're afraid, what if we looked at it through that lens of curiosity? And so I always love to do a fear sorting exercise where I ask people, okay, make a list of your fears. Now tell me, is it a high, low, medium chance of them happening? If it's a high chance of them happening, what do we do to lessen the impact of the fear? Not make the fear go away, but to lessen the impact that the fear has on us. And then if there's a high chance of this happening, what do we do in the worst case scenario and the worst possible outcome? And oftentimes just looking at that, we're like, oh, that's not so bad. I can work with that. That's real and tangible now. And now I can put a plan to it. And so like when it's in our head, we often go to that place of cognitive distortion and we get carried away with the story. But once we put pen to paper and we actually start to sort these fears and we get curious about them and we realize that they're information, it's so much easier to work with them.
Oh, it's so good. And it's so true. It's like fear is like this ghost that's just looming over you. And then when you do that, you put it in writing. I mean, you're obviously being proactive, right? But you kind of bring it down from it's like the visual of the ghost, and you like
the fear past,
and then, but you're sitting it in a chair and almost like you're having a conversation with it. Right. Yeah. I love what you just offered. It's so important because we know that, the larger majority is being submitted by this fear that is not allowing them then to really move forward. And it's so interesting, right? Because that fear can show up for so many different reasons in so many different ways. And this is going to segue us into an area I want to talk about with you. But, one of the greatest things that I've discovered in terms of fear with the clients that I coach, my community, is the fear of what others will think about them. Mm-hmm. And that stops so many people from living the fucking life that they want to live. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts around that?
I mean, who cares what other people think?
I know. I mean, conceptually, like that's I know, but it's never that simple. Well, especially because a lot of times the people that you're afraid of their judgment, their opinions, are people that you love and you respect, like your family. And that makes it really fucking hard.
Totally. And this reminds me of the Roosevelt/Brene Brown quote of the man in the arena, right? And I'm going to totally butcher this, but she talks about like when we're in the arena. So like when we're doing tough stuff, we are in the arena. We are in the center. We are the gladiators fighting the good fight. And then there's people in the cheap seats that have all this commentary about what we're doing in the arena, but their ass is not in the arena. They're not getting their ass kicked with us, right? They have this vantage point, but their skin is not in the game. And so being really careful about whose opinions we take, whose feedback we want, right? Feedback is very important. Mm-hmm. I want to say that. I want to underscore that. But feedback from people whose feedback you value and will help you become a better person and will help you grow. That's the feedback that we want. So being really considerate about the feedback and, really it's our life and we are here to live it. And so what's integrity for you? Is integrity for you living a life that is acceptable to other people, or is integrity for you playing all out for the dream, taking feedback from the people who really matter? What's integrity for you?
That's a tweetable. I know I've never said that before on the podcast, but you're so full of them. I love that. No, it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. Like one of the things I've often shared is that, there's like pain on either side and you have to decide what pain is more important to, for you, that you're more willing to experience. And I know in my life, always operating from my most authentic self. And a lot of times that is like, hey, I got to do this, even though there might be like, what are you doing over here from people I love? It's happened in the past. It's more painful. It was more painful for me to not operate from this internal guidance system, my most authentic self, like telling me, no, go this way, versus the pain that would come from the misunderstanding, the judgment, or whatever I would have to face from that external. And it's a really, these things that I bring up are so strategic because I'm really paying attention to a lot of where like the pain points, of people that I encounter. And I know that you are such a beautiful guidance and expert in these spaces to be able to offer your wisdom to support, the moving past this stuff.
I love what you said about the pain on both sides because it is really profound. And I think sometimes we don't really understand the pain on both sides fully.
Mm.
But when we grow, there's the pain of anticipated loss, right? As you up level, it means that things will fall away. You'll gain things, but things will fall away. And that pain is oftentimes what keeps people stuck. So I'll always ask people like, what will you lose when you grow? What are you going to lose? Because there's something in there that you are fighting, that you are resisting because you don't want to lose it, that's keeping you stuck. And so looking at that thing and having that aha about the pain and the loss is so profound. I'm so glad that you named that.
Oh, it's such a beautiful extension because you're so right. And people would never even think. I mean, it could even be like, oh, if I lose this weight, then my friends that have really, that are really comfortable with me or, they're not going to like me anymore because they're going to feel, I'm just painting, an example, but I feel like it's actually a common one. But people would never think that. Like, what are you talking about? But when you dig deep enough, which is something that you and I both love to do, right? Like to peel back these layers here, one will discover like, shoot, actually, you're right. This fear of, not feeling accepted anymore is actually holding me back from making this gain in my life. So powerful.
It is.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So another thing that I really am excited to talk to you about is, you have a nourishment journal, right? So when we think about, the way that we started this podcast, things that light you up, things that nourish you, you point out joy, and that's something that's so important to me in my life. I always say, like, it's not just about attaining the thing or achieving the goal. It's like, how much joy can I have in the process on the way there? Because to me, joy is a contribution to, like, it's a big part of real wealth, right?
Yes.
If I don't care how much money you have, if there's no joy, it's not, you're not wealthy to me. Sorry. Right? I'm like, sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So what I'd love to know from your expertise in this, anytime I hear the word nourishment, I'm thinking of you, Amina. But just how do you, a lot of people want to stack themselves and get as much done as they can. And, you talked about like what's in alignment with your integrity and the joy, but are there like is there a 1, 2, 3 kind of starting point step that you can guide people right now? Or like, okay, I want the whole life makeover. I obviously don't want to burn out and I want to have joy in the process. What's my 1, 2, 3 step from Amina?
So I would say that, like what you're saying, right? When we want to make over every area of our life, when we want to go from 0 to 100 real fast, we're setting ourselves up for shaky ground, right? There's like, the carpet is rippled and we're going to trip. So let's just pause for a second. And I invite you to pick, let's say, the top 3 areas of your life that you want to reimagine. And I think it's super important to let's write the 1-year dream for that particular area of your life. So let's say it's work, money, body. So what do you want to have, experience, and feel in the next year of life in those 3 particular areas? And then writing the dream for that. And then based on the dream, and where you are today, where's the gap? So where's the gap between where you are and where the dream is? And then what needs to happen? What actions do you need to put in place to walk that path? And then I like to break things down into bite-sized chunks. So what do I need to achieve like today, this week, this month, this quarter? And then giving ourselves full permission to reimagine and redream at interval, right? So if I get to the quarter and I'm like, wow, okay, now the 1-year dream actually looks totally different because I'm a different person, speaking of becoming, permission to radically reimagine and write that again. So always checking in with yourself and asking yourself, is this still true? Do I still want this thing? But really walking incrementally and, I do love myself a good plan.
I know you do. You're so good at it, but that's so important, the incremental part. And also I love the permission to adjust, to pivot. I mean, that's so real. It's like, you don't want to get stuck on the process, or you want to be kind of always in tune with, like what you said, like what's in your integrity, like what is the big vision, and you are always going to be changing. So I feel to stay on that path, to stay on that game of attainment, you need this evaluation. You need to, from time to time, zoom out and check in, like, where am I at? Does this really matter to me? How is this serving me? Right. I mean, that's what you just, so
100%.
important. It's so important. Okay. So a couple things come to my mind that are also really important that I want us to talk about. Yes. Let's move into money mindset, This is important because and the reason why, I mean, you're such a badass with this. You've taught me a lot, and I know that you have supportive tools for your clients and people who you don't even work with, but just offerings that you share with the world to support a really powerful, abundant money mindset. Somebody asked me the other day, like, how do you I haven't answered yet, but I'm excited to present this to you and let you riff off of this. But, how do you really imagine this abundant financial mindset when it's just really not there? Like, how do you connect that and make that real? What do you say to that?
Yeah. So everything starts at the beliefs level. So I have worked with so many people that have come from, the deck has been stacked against them. Maybe they grew up poor or money was easy come, easy go, or they had money and they lost it, whatever it was. Worked with people from all walks of life. And like I've also had my own story with money as well that I've reframed. And so it starts at the beliefs level. So what do you believe about money? What did you learn in your family system? What was your family's pattern around money? Because behavioral epigenetics, right? We have taken that on, we have witnessed it, it's in ourselves, we've experienced it. So we need to sit down and we need to reprogram. So if your family didn't feel like money was available to people like them, quote unquote, chances are you might feel that way too. So we need to understand what those core limiting beliefs are about money. We need to reframe those beliefs and be active in pursuit of the reframe. So working with those reframes daily, like in meditation, rewiring our brains, and then also taking practical steps towards it too. So let's say you have a ton of debt. There are so many agencies that you can work with or firms that you can work with to put together your repayment plan. So what is your repayment plan? What are you really expanding wealth? I think is so important. I don't really believe in condensing ourselves, right? Of course, sometimes like if there's a disordered relationship and we're not sober in our spending, we want to look at that. But I don't believe in condensing ourselves so much, right? Like I said, if there's a disordered relationship, we'll look at it and we'll have a different plan. But I believe in the expansion.
Can I just I want to position that another way for people to really understand. So it's essentially, it's like over budgeting, right? Would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
And I
totally.
love that because I totally know where that's coming from. Please
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. So there's actually two sides of it, right? Some people will
Right.
be like overspending and then
Right.
some people will be over budgeting. So the people that are like super free and then the people that are super condensed. And there is always an opportunity for you to grow your wealth, always an opportunity to make more money. It might have to be creative, right? It might not
Sure.
be in your current job or your current business, but there are always ways to kind of get to that next level. And so I'm a firm believer in like, what's that plan for that next level versus like, what are the things that I can take away from myself or how can I over budget and restrict?
I love that. And I think the money mindset conversation is always important, but just thinking about the hardships that people have been in are still currently going through. I really wanted you to speak on that in this conversation because, it's evergreen, but I think it's also very robust right now. This, the financial affairs that people are dealing with. And I just want to kind of illustrate another example of what you said about this. Like, it's not about over restricting. If you think about diet, if you want somebody to start eating healthy or healthier, rather than, okay, you can't eat this and don't eat this and don't eat that, it's eat more protein on your plate. It's, put some more greens on the plate. So we're not even talking about the takeaway, the restriction, as much as we're talking about what can you add to, this. And I know it's not a direct example, but it's the concept of, not putting yourself in the state where you feel, because we know there's so much science to back this. The minute that you start saying, don't do this, it's like the brain is just inspired to be like, go straight to that thing that you're saying not to do, so it backfires.
It does. It's so true. It's like when we restrict our calories or our eating, right? Then we binge. And it's the same thing mentality wise. But I also want to come back to what you said. Like, this is a really tough moment in human history. This is a black swan moment. And so many people have lost jobs and been displaced. And I want to name that. And I don't want to overlook that or overstep that at all. And so I think compassion is so important in this particular conversation right now. Moving forward, hopefully things look a little bit different. If you're not in your ideal state right now, there's zero shame around that because this is a really tough moment for a lot of people, and compassion is such a big part of this conversation.
Oh, totally. And I mean, listen, I think that, there's always, with total respect to the hardships, there's always an opportunity in some aspect of I mean, I know a lot of people who had the best year ever last year. As,
I do
as
too.
crazy as that, yeah,
I do
as
too.
crazy
Yeah.
as that sounds, it's like, I mean, I in my own life had a lot of incredible growth and progress that stemmed literally from that was leveraged from the hardship of last year. So yes, it's a very real thing, and I know both you and I are very compassionate always to really anybody who's going through hardship, but to also wanting to highlight this idea that basically like watch your mindset around money,
Mhm.
make sure that you're not sending yourself down, especially if you're already in this, this is already your kind of your natural way of going, but you're not sending yourself down a further route of less of the lack of prosperity, the lack of abundance. So I think it's really important to, yes, we're here in compassion and holding space for the individual that is going through the hard time, but also the offering here is to say, hey, you know, a lot of, I believe, our external life, like a lot of what happens is a result of what's happening inside. So
Mhm.
it's so important to do our very best every day to keep our mindset, period. But specifically in this area right now, we're talking about money, prosperity, to keep this at a high level, to keep yourself, okay, even if you don't have that money yet, like how do you call it in? From your mind first.
Mhm.
And so I know again that you have powerful tools that support an individual to really get this mindset moving and working for them. So I wanted to make sure that we touched on that in this talk because I think it's really, really important.
Thank you so much. And
Well,
as Roxy was mentioning, I have a money mindset course and it's bite sized and there's a payment plan. So anyone can dig in and get some pithy takeaways. But I also want to underscore what you were saying too about mindset. At the beginning of the pandemic, I work with a ton of female entrepreneurs and it was kind of a 50-50 split. People that were like, oh my God, here's an opportunity. We are mission driven. Let's get out in front of this. And people who are a little bit more fearful. And I invited them into this conversation of we can get out in front of this. Like you are agile, you are powerful, you are mission driven. There's space for you. And those that really leaned into that mindset did grow, did win, did have their best years ever. It's really, really interesting.
yeah, no, I love that because I say that all the time, like mindset rules all,
Mm-hmm.
wherever you're looking is where you're going. So, and this goes back to the fear thing. It's like, just, accept that fear is always going to be there, accept that there's going to be challenge. And in fact, embrace the challenge. But make sure that you are keeping your mindset in a place that is continuously keeping you in the arena and moving you forward. Right. So that,
Yeah.
yeah.
I will say agility is so important here because, like, let's say, for example, you work in an industry or a category that's been particularly hard hit right now, like restaurants, for example, right? A lot of restaurant workers are, dealing with a ton of financial hardship. And so what does that look like for them? Of course, the mindset piece, but then, probably having to step outside of that category and looking at how they can leverage their skills in other spaces to be able to make up for that missed income. But the invitation is really like, how can we make up for this versus you feeling like you have to condense?
I love that. That's so powerful. And thank you for using that exact example because I swear my heart is just goes out every day to all the, restaurants and the bars and,
No.
where I live, it's like we have all the little cute places here in the small and obviously New York City, it's like people just outside just try. It's like, oh, I feel it for them. But man, like coming out and coming out stronger is such a powerful feeling that people do have the ability. I mean, I think that's, that's what we do. We empower you to know that it's within you. Yeah, it's going to take work. Yeah, it's going to be hard. Nobody's saying you're not going to have to do the work and it's not going to be, hard, but just knowing that you have the resources inside, starting with your mindset, to be able to win, to get on the other side and to win.
Yeah.
Something else I really want to talk about in this conversation with you is, when I think about resources and inside and I think about mindset, biology affects your mindset straight up. If your body is not feeling well, your health, your hormones, your neurotransmitters, like all of this is being thrown off. And then all of that is throwing you off. Right. So, because a lot of times I feel like it's just like people don't really look in that space. I understand it's not like we've been groomed to, talk about dopamine for, the last 200 years or whatever. But So it's like this white knuckling of like
Yes.
mindset, like willpower and beast mode. And I'm like, sure, that. But if this biology piece isn't working for you, good luck. It's going to be a lot harder. So for those that don't know yet, but you've had, autoimmune issues, you had health issues, especially in the earlier years of your career life where, you were just like, you were beast mode.
Grinding. Yeah. Hustle with a capital H.
Right. Like the health piece wasn't really integrated yet. So I would just love for you to talk about, the importance of this piece and maybe offer, everybody's life is so different. Everybody's biology is so different, but some of the things that really support you to feel good, to be nourished from that perspective, in terms of like, maybe a morning practice or evening practice or just anything that you really want to share that could be supportive to this conversation. Cause you have so much to share in this space as well.
I love hearing you rap out about this space. Like you are the queen of this. You're the queen of many things.
Well, I love you.
It's the truth.
Well, thank you. But you got gems for days.
Well, I went to the school of hard knocks on this one. So.
Best learning place, in my opinion.
Agreed. So early on in my career, I was really grinding it out. I was not super conscious, and I ended up burning out and developing 2 autoimmune diseases. And I think by far and away, one of the biggest lessons for me is really listening to myself, right? I thought my body was like a machine and a tool to get me where I wanted to go. I wasn't in collaboration with it. I was in a really dehumanizing relationship with it. I was just like trying to force it to get me to a place. I wasn't treating it like this beautiful home that I'm inhabiting. And so I think really reconciling my relationship with my body and realizing like the mind and the body, we're not cut off at the neck. Like we are working together synergistically. Like we are a collaborating team. We are a powerhouse together, not like me trying to use this body as a tool to like make life happen. And that was such a big mindset reframe for me. And then for me, like realizing that taking care of myself is what allows me to show up fully for the work that I came here to do. And so that is so, so, so important for me. So I am like really bullish on my wellness routine and taking care of myself. I don't start work every day until 11 a.m. And I understand that is a form of privilege and not everybody gets to do that. But my morning routine is like what sets me up to be able to hold people throughout the day. And I hold people big time. And so I wake up and I will meditate. I'm a Vedic meditator. So I do 20 minutes twice a day. And I'll read in the morning. So like I'll read like spiritual text or like just something inspiring. I'm reading Journey to Ichilan right now. And then I will move my body. That's so, so important for me. And it's different all the time, depending on where I am in my cycle and how I feel. And then I actually, even in the time of Zoom, I will get ready every single day because it makes me feel good. Like looking good is part of feeling good for me. And so feeling like I'm showing up respectfully for my clients, like that's super important. So the morning routine is everything and it sets me up for the day. And then also I'm so lucky. I have an amazing support team. Like you introduced me to Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, who's such a freaking badass and like is the quarterback of my health. And I'm so grateful. Like, oh my God.
Mine too, girl. Lucky us. Seriously. Best doctor on the planet. Total queen. Yeah.
Totally broke the mold with Dr. Lyon. She is sensational. But yeah, it's everything. If we don't have that, what do we have?
Yeah, no. And it's so important. I mean, listen, health is the conversation around health is evergreen too. And it's always something that I'm so passionate about talking about and sharing knowledge on. But, where we're living right now, this climate, this world, this whole, there's never been a better time to get your ass healthy.
Yes.
And to stay metabolically healthy. It's really, really important. And, I love that you said, because it's so true, you're so much, you can show up so much stronger in all of yourself for your clients, for your business, for really everybody that you are connecting with when you are in this state of health and full connection. You're not disconnected from your body. You're living in self as one. And so you're whole. And then this is how we get all of the beautiful Amina that we get, And so I love that. And I think it's an important thing because also one thing that I've come across, and I feel like you have too, tell me if this is true. A lot of people can think that this health, like carving out time for yourself in the morning, for example, is like a selfish act. The word selfish is really interesting to me. But almost as a, like, it's not, it's selfish because they have other things that are important. Maybe it's their family, their whatever to attend to. And I say that, if you don't do that first, you're not doing them a service, which is essentially what you just said, because they're not really getting all of the best of you because you're not in your best self.
100%. I would say that self-sacrifice is not a contribution, right? I felt like when I was early on in my career, I was in some form of like sacrifice yourself Olympics of like, who's going to work the hardest, sleep the least, drink the most coffee, not take care of themselves, right? And we somehow think that that's a contribution to the world, and it's not. Like, we show up as a sliver of ourselves.
It's so true. And I think that, we've been groomed on this too. It's like the go until you can't go anymore. And I'm like, that's just not the way. That doesn't feel good, And again, go back to this whole conversation around joy integrated into the process. Joy, not even just in the sense of emotion, but like just feeling physically good in your body is so important, right? It's just
I talk about you all the time to my clients, and like as an example of like beautiful harmony. So you are the consummate athlete in all areas of your life. You achieve, you go, you train, you're strong, you have drive, you have this energy. And you also, a part of your training is your rest and your recovery. And you are as diligent in your rest and recovery as you are in your training in all areas of your life. And that's what allows you to show up the way that you do. And so you are my shining, like I always tell people, like, go look at Roxy. She has this down to an art, because there's so many of us that are trained in that old school way of like must self-sacrifice, and it's not the truth.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for sharing that. And that, you have those conversations. And I love that you present that, because I think a lot of times, a lot of people think that it's just like beast mode all the time, which is, that's not the case. I have yin, yang, yang. Mm-hmm. I have my morning yin, which is just very me, self-connection, super just chill and priming me for my day to go yang, to go fire. And that's what a lot of people see, right? And they also don't see that my ass is in bed at 8:00 because I'm
right behind you.
Seriously, with so much joy of being there, because, I have my tea, my theanine, and I'll take in like some Joe Rogan or some neuroscience podcast or something. And this is how I wind down, and then I'm asleep. And, because sleep is a high performance tool. It's a longevity. It's like the master to, tool to longevity. And so it's really important. But, I do thank you for sharing that, because I think it's always something I want to make very clear that, yeah, okay, look, I haven't been on a fucking vacation in 5 years. Now, granted, I work for myself, so I can adjust my schedule, but that it's almost more dangerous when you work for yourself and you really are passionate about it. You're purpose driven, because, you're driven to work from a very unique, place where, you want to get this done because you want to see this happen, because you want to support your community, because you know what I mean? And this could, if you're not careful, if you don't have these healthy boundaries, can get you sick. Essentially, right? You're on that blue light computer until 1 a.m. and you're not sleeping good. And then that affects your blood sugar the next day and whatever. So I again, just to kind of put a bow on what you were talking about right now. Yeah, it's really important to rest and recover. And that doesn't always have to be, a vacation, or it's just because I really love this. And, I really love this idea of just like every single day, how do you dose this and really toggle between kick ass and chill out?
Yeah.
Right? Kick ass, chill out.
Yeah. I love that so much. I think that we all have like different, I call it authentic energy codes. We all have different energy kind of signatures and codes and how we move through life. And I think lots of things contribute to it, from biology to like some metaphysics stuff. And like, I'm a big student of human design. I love all of that. So I think we all have these different energy signatures. And I think it's like, what's yours? Like, I know that I am a sprinter. Like, I like to sprint. I like to rest. I like to sprint. I like to rest. Some people are endurance runners. That's not me. And so like knowing your authentic energy code and your signature pattern, and then how you work with that to get the best out of yourself. Because I know when I'll sprint hard and then I rest and I come out of the cave swinging and I'm so clear, right? And so like, what's your version of that for all of us?
I love that. Do you have some kind of tool, or how do you help somebody find their authentic signature code?
I actually do have a quiz on this. I'll
Of
give
course
you a
you do. I love it. No, it's so great. I mean, it's what makes you, you're such a badass because you really do. You have these great concepts. They're put together so well, but then you also have these really supportive tools to help an individual like dive into it and like make it applicable and, get their hands in it.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you, girl. Girl. Thank you. All right. So I know that we are on a time constraint today, but I love you. And I'm just so grateful just to be in space with you. I mean, you're my girl.
Love you so much. This is always so fun. I could literally stay here all day if I could.
I know, truly. Well, you're one of my friends who is just on rotation on the podcast. And, there's only a few of you that are, have been on here twice, 3 times, and will continue to do so. Because the thing is, it's like you're a thought partner for me too, right? And so in addition to you having all these incredible tools and offerings and teachings, every one of our phone calls is a podcast. It's the way that we bounce off each other, right? And so it's so true. And so it just makes so much sense. Aside from it just being joyful for me, it makes so much sense to just have you come on and just wrap out with you, continuously throughout, on the podcast. So I love you. Thank you. But before we wrap out, I want to ask you, is there anything that we haven't spoke about yet in this conversation that you want to live in this talk?
I want to thank you for how amazing you show up for all of us, for this podcast, for the incredible guests that you have on here, for creating queendom, for creating a space where rad, badass women can come together and rap out and support each other. I want to thank you. That's what I want to talk about.
Girl, I can't. I love you. I did not see that coming. And it doesn't just surprise me because that's just who you be, girl. But like, damn, I love you. Thank you.
Oh, you are amazing. And you're always in service to us all.
Ditto, mama. So hurry up and get your ass over here. I'm so happy.
I'm coming.
She's coming to West Coast. All of your contact info and everything will, be in the show notes. But if you want to direct our listeners and our viewers there right now so they can get more dialed into you, please do.
Awesome. You can find me on Instagram at Amina AlTai. Spelling will be in the show notes. Mm-hmm. And my website is the same, aminaaltai.com.
Okay, awesome. And then I'll make sure that if there's any, like the quiz, I can put that in the show notes as well for the
fabulous
authenticity. What was it called?
Authentic energy codes.
Authentic energy codes. Yes, I need to do that quiz too. Okay, Mama, I love you. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon. See you soon.
Yes.